Oh, wow. That was fantastic, Caroline. I think I even saw a comment in the chat from Robert that really helped simplify and clarify what the blueprint is. So thank you for that excellent overview. The blueprint is very innovative. It is very complex, and there's much more to learn about what is offered in this once in a generation law. So if you'd like to learn more, check out our website for more resources, or join or start your own team of 10 by talking to Ali. It should be noted that a hallmark of today and future days is that this is an opportunity for us to take the time to reflect on what we've seen in implementation and evaluate the status of where we actually are. This year, our lead organizer, Ali Carter, will provide us all with an update on how year one of Blueprint implementation has gone. Ali?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Moya, for the introduction. I'm Ali Carter. I'm the lead organizer of Strong Schools Maryland, and let's recap year one of Blueprint implementation. My first slide, please, Dave. Thank you so much. The Accountability and Implementation Board, or AIB, that Caroline just outlined for you, was created via nomination by a bipartisan nominating committee who solicited applications statewide for individuals to serve on this critical board. The nominating committee announced 9 candidates from 43 interested applicants across the state. In October, Governor Hogan appointed 7 of these candidates to be members of the AIB. The AIB met at the end of last year, and just this month, hired Rachel Heiss as their executive director. Now, it's important to note that the formation and work of the AIB was delayed in 2021, which has consequences on the timeline for implementation and the delivery on the promise of the law to Maryland's classrooms. Additionally, the AIB was not provided with $1.8 million in operating funding and $3 million in funding for technical assistance to local school systems, because as you've heard, Governor Hogan elected not to include that in the budget this year. This sets us up for the rest of the year. Next slide, please. So when we rewind to September of 2021, we can see the impact of this delay clear as day. We'll go month by month and see what's publicly available and which implementation items are lacking evidence. Now, last week, our team leaders explored local school system websites to search for evidence of implementation. And so this is the result of what we did or did not discover. Currently, we don't yet have evidence on uniform reporting guidelines for local school systems and a state level plan for blueprint funds in fiscal year 22. This is primarily due to other delays in the AIB. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. In October of 2021, brought the submission of free and reduced meal rates, which are tied to eligibility for concentration of poverty grants. These grants invest more heavily in schools serving large numbers of students from households experiencing poverty. However, the establishment of the Career and Technical Education Committee has not yet happened and is currently endangered by the governor's proposed budget. Now, as you can see here in November, MSCE was required to publish an interim report on neighborhood indicators of poverty and a report on pre-K strategy. These were late to reach the public, but are easily accessible on the MSCE website as well as our website. However, because of the delay in the formation of the AIB, the November annual report to MSCE, the governor, and the Maryland General Assembly on blueprint implementation progress, legislative change recommendations, how well state and local actors are implementing, and whether funding is sufficient, it was not published. This means that we don't have a clear state level picture of how implementation is going, nor do we know whether funding is sufficient or how well state and local implementation is going overall. Additionally, easily accessible public evidence of all 24 reports on technology spending and the percentage of students and staff with home internet connectivity was difficult to come by at the local level. Next slide, please. December brought the state level English language learners work group interim report. Strong Schools Maryland is particularly interested in the findings of this group, as students of immigrant and mixed status families are disproportionately undercounted when we assess school level poverty. This has major equity implications for school level and certain grant program funding. Currently, evidence is lacking on local reports for pre-K strategy, local reports on federal pandemic relief funding spent on student instruction, and a presentation of a 10-year plan for apprenticeship programs with the CTE pillar of the blueprint. Like many of the other provisions I've mentioned, the apprenticeship grant planning and reports are either delayed due to delays in establishing the AIB or in danger with the governor's current budget. Next slide, please. Last month, MSDE published local reports on funds spent to address trauma and behavioral health programming. Now, because of the delayed start of the AIB, MSDE collected this information and published it as one full report, which you can find on our website. We are still searching for locally specific reports as we have them from some districts, but not all of them yet. The Department of Legislative Services submitted a report on local fiscal impact of implementing the blueprint, which found generally that state investment increases as local requirements do, though it will be necessary to ensure equity and resources for jurisdictions with low wealth bases. On the other hand, evidence is lacking on a communication strategy to inform stakeholders on the new college and career readiness structures, reports on school level expenditures of blueprint funds, and local reports on tutoring. Next slide, please. This year, we saw the appointment of local blueprint implementation coordinators, which is really, really exciting. Annual occurrences, however, that are lacking in evidence are summer pre-K programming, local reports on how blueprint funds will be spent in the next year, funding for the AIB, funding for CTE committee, students assessed by the new college and career readiness standards, funds for 9 new Judy centers per year, funding for school-based health clinics, and blueprint transition grants. All of this in addition to local reports on grades 4 to 12 tutoring. Now, this tutoring program is really important because it's meant to address pandemic learning recovery, and the funding is only available for 2 years. As you can see, the funding for local technical assistance and AIB staffing is a critical route that impacts every branch of implementation. The consequence of this funding missing this fiscal year is very clear. There is so much promise in the blueprint, and we need the support and accountability systems that the law put in place to ensure that the promise makes it to every classroom in Maryland. Next slide, please. Now, a special shout out to these local and state systems for the ways they've engaged and communicated blueprint implementation updates to stakeholders, including team leaders and teams of 10. Prince George's County and Baltimore County have sections of their website dedicated to the blueprint. St. Mary's County has a stakeholder work group, members of which you'll hear from later today. The Calvert County Board of Education invited us to lead a public teach-in on the blueprint for the board and the public. And if you're a board member and want us to do that in your district, just let us know. And Wacomico County and the State Board of Education provide monthly updates on blueprint implementation in their board meetings. And we really look forward to seeing these engagement strategies in every single county.